Hi everyone, welcome back to Prof. Dan Tutorials, where I try to provide you with informational or educational content on EB2 NIW or EB1A in particular, with the goal of assisting many of you all who are self-petitioning. While I share content from USCIS, which I consider the only credible source, I advise you to do the same. So today, I will be sharing with you the latest USCIS updates on the EB2 National Interest Waiver. These updates are really significant. And if you are a self-petitioner aiming for an EB2 NIW, understanding them is really essential for your success, especially for many of you who do not have the financial resources to employ the services of attorneys, accredited representatives, or consultants. Aside that, in understanding the process involved, you're probably going to limit requests for evidence from USCIS. So stay in tuned, stay till the end. For those of you that probably will be doing something while watching this video, I implore you to pause it and listen attentively as I will try to break down some of these updates, all with the goal of assisting you in filing a successful petition. As you can see on the screen, you will see summary of changes. So USCIS has released these updates on January 15, 2025 to clarify and standardize how EB2 NIW petitions are adjudicated. The guidance emphasizes the need for you self-petitioner to meet all three prongs of the dinosaur criteria, while also ensuring your documentation and evidence are clear, detailed, and well organized. This update is particularly helpful because it provides a roadmap for petitioners to follow. In terms of eligibility, just a quick recap, we know that to qualify for an EB2 NIW, you must meet or fulfill a particular condition first. The first is that you should hold an advanced degree, which is the same as saying you have a master's degree or higher than that. Or for those of you that have only bachelor's degree, you must have, in addition to that, at least 5 years of progressive work experience. Alternatively, also, you can demonstrate exceptional ability in your given or particular field, meaning you have a degree of expertise significantly above what's ordinarily encountered. And in the case of this exceptional ability, there are certain criteria USCIS has listed, and out of this criteria, you should also fulfill at least 3 of them. Again, I will advise you, if you put in your browser USCIS EB2 NIW, you will see this policy guidance or manual that can be of help to you. The first thing I'm going to talk about, again, in the context of these updates, is about substantial merit and national importance. Personally, I feel USCIS is doing something really great. And this, perhaps, social media has it that the recent trend in the past months, there are more RFEs, requests for more evidence from USCIS than before. And who knows, perhaps some of this might have been the consideration why USCIS has decided to update this policy manual, which again is to help people to understand exactly what is required of you in your petition. And that's why I think it's a really good update at this time. So For me, all I'm just doing again is I'm explaining from using my own educational lens, to share with you or trying to break down what has been said in a more relatable manner. So again, the first thing is understanding substantial merit and national importance, which that's the first prong. Now, when you are applying for an EB2 national interest waiver, the first prong of the dinosaur framework is really critical. This prong assesses whether your proposed endeavor demonstrates substantial merit, that's one. Two, national importance. There has been cases of people, they will pass the substantial merits, they do not pass the national importance, or there are those who do not pass both the substantial merits and the national importance. So these two parts of the prong one is very, very important. But to start with, what does an endeavor mean? In the context of NIW, I must tell you that your field of expertise, for example, I am a mechanical engineer, is different from your proposed endeavor. So, petitioners, self-petitioners, please take note of that. When you don't describe your endeavor in details and you just describe the general field, it cannot scale through. So what does an endeavor mean? The term endeavor is much more specific. Please take note of that. It's much more specific than just naming your general occupation. For example, if you are an environmental scientist, simply stating your occupation as an environmental scientist talking about that field is not enough. Instead, you must explain the specific work you plan to do within that your field. For example, as an environmental scientist, could it be that you are working on reducing greenhouse gas emissions? Could it be that you are developing a new technology for sustainable energy? Could it be that you are conducting some, research on maybe water purification for rural areas? That is how you can begin to be more detailed and focused, zooming in on your proposed endeavor as against the general field. Please take note that this specificity really helps the USCIS officers to understand what you really intend to do, what your exact contributions are. Please take note of that. Now, the next thing I just want to briefly touch on again is substantial merits. People do say perhaps they are confused about what is substantial merit, what is national importance. Now, to meet the substantial merit requirements, your proposed endeavor must demonstrate significant value or impact. And this value could be, maybe economical, for example, generating revenue, creating jobs, or fostering innovation in key industries. It could be societal, that way we say addressing maybe pressing challenges like public health issues, educational equity, or environmental sustainability, and the likes. Or is it knowledge-based? There we talk about advancing research or maybe technology that can benefit the society at large. For example, let's say a data scientist, as a data scientist, you intend to create, AI tools to improve maybe healthcare diagnostics, and, you could really show the substantial merits of such, and you could, see or show how that directly contributes to health improvement. Having said that, let's look at national importance. Please take note, your proposed endeavor must also show its national importance, meaning it has a broader impact beyond a localized or individual scope. Your national importance should tend to address significant U.S. priorities, which, is a lot. It could entail maybe critical infrastructure, enhancing public health, safety, boosting key industries, maybe technology, education, energy, agriculture, and the likes. In that national importance, you really want to show the broader implication beyond a particular scope or your employer, yeah. Having said that, let me take you further from this latest policy manual. You can take a pause of the video and watch and take a look at what is on the screen. Just read through this paragraph, and after that, we can continue this, let me say, a workshop. I'm not going to read that verbatim. Okay, so again, still on national importance and substantial merit, I want to quickly talk about key takeaways and, possible evidence. Now, under this prong, USCIS officers probably review your case using preponderance of evidence standard. And what does that mean? It really means that the evidence you are submitting as exhibits, that objective evidence must really show that it is more likely than not that your proposed endeavor has both substantial merit and national importance. And your evidence could include, letter of recommendations from experts in your field, dependent or independent. You can check previous videos that have explained that on Prof. Dan tutorials YouTube channel. It could include published research papers, media articles or reports highlighting the significance of your work, data showing the measurable impact of your contributions, past or your present or the potential future contributions. So please take note that this particular prong is all about showing specificity and impact of your proposed endeavor as against the general field. And I would say, don't rely on vague or generic descriptions of your work. Instead, you have to focus on the unique contributions you are making and how they align with national priorities. The clearer and more compelling your evidence, the stronger your case will actually be. On a final note, understanding and addressing the first prong, substantial merit and national importance, is really critical in building a strong EB2 NIW petition. My advice is be specific. Back up your claims with solid evidence and always align your work with broader U.S. priorities. If you try or if you can package your case really well, then that sets the foundation for a possible success in your petition. And again, there has been many RFEs which is always saying you've not passed the national importance, you've not really detailed your proposed endeavor, is not really clear enough, and the likes. So you want to avoid all of this. Again, consult the USCIS policy manual and let that be your main guidance. Having said that, let's take a look briefly at the second prong for NIW, which is well positioned to advance your proposed endeavor. The second prong of the dinosaur framework focuses entirely on you as the petitioner. Remember, the first one is more or less on your proposed endeavor, but this time around in well positioning is on you, the petitioner, which can include your qualifications, your track record, your ability to make the proposed endeavor a reality. I must tell you this, that one of the red flags is when you feel your proposed endeavor is only tied to your past experience, that you have robust previous years of experience, past record, and there is nothing talking about the future goals, what you intend to do. It will not pass through. Please avoid those kind of mistakes. Now, unlike the first prong, which really assesses the merit and importance of your proposed endeavor itself, this second prong looks at whether you, as the petitioner, are well positioned to advance the proposed endeavor. And in this, you could say USCIS will evaluate your capacity, your expertise, and evidence of progress towards achieving the endeavor. And when your case is being reviewed, we would assume that they examine multiple aspects of your profile, which may include, but not limited to, things like your education, skills, and knowledge. As an example, let's say your proposed endeavor involves artificial intelligence, AI. I'm using AI because we are now in the era of AI. Then one could say USCIS will look at whether you have advanced degrees, certifications, or demonstrated expertise in AI-related fields. There must be connection. Another point is your track record of success in related efforts. For example, let's say you are an environmental scientist and you are proposing a project to combat climate change. Then probably evidence like maybe prior publications, for those of you that may have patents, or maybe successful projects that you have done in similar areas can show your capability to really show that, based on what this petitioner is proposing as his or her endeavor or their endeavor, we could see the record of, success in similar kind of project that have been done in the past or presently. Now, on these next slides, let's take a look at an extract from the updated policy that focus on the second prong. Again, you can pause the video and go through this extract. Once done, let me just give a little, throw a little light on it. Still talking about certain evidence, for showing that you're well positioned. It's evidence of a detailed plan or proposal. And that's also a red flag. If you don't have that in your petition, it may not scale through. USCIS really wants to see that you have thought through the how of your endeavor, not, presenting a petition that's making the USCIS confused as to what do you really want to do? Is this petitioner still trying to look for a job or something like that, even though job offer is not really required? You want to be clear. You want to really show that in what you are proposing as your endeavor, you have thought through it clearly enough, and that's the how. For example, a software developer creating maybe a app, an application to aid farmers, to show needs to really show the plans involved, the wireframes involved, or maybe the prototype. And aside that, you really also want to show progress towards the proposed endeavor. What progress have you made? You can't say you have a proposed endeavor and there is no connection to the little things you are beginning to do to execute in order to progress towards the proposed endeavor that's really needed. So you need to show what you have already achieved. And this can demonstrate you are not just presenting an idea, but really you are actively working towards it. You need to show that in your petition. For example, a biotech researcher might, highlight their ongoing clinical trials, partnerships, if that's involved, or maybe grants that you've secured, for your proposed solution. Another important thing is if there are already interests or supports from stakeholders, you also want to show that USCIS considers, whether third parties, such as maybe customers, investors, or academic institutions, have expressed interest in or support for your work. And in that, you could utilize letter of support from an industry leader, maybe collaboration agreement or grant from reputable organizations to strengthen your case. And overall, some of the evidence, to support this prong could include maybe publications, if you have them, certifications, or maybe awards you've received, media mentions, letter of recommendations, grants or funding documentations, or maybe ongoing projects, and many more. The next thing I'm going to look at is balancing your ambition and feasibility. I want you to take a look at something, to take note of something here. USCIS understand that really not all proposed endeavor, what you have proposed that you intend to do will succeed. Yes, they know that it may not succeed. However, the critical question is not whether your endeavor will definitely succeed, but whether in your petition you have really shown the credibility, how capable you are, and how well positioned you are to advance that proposed endeavor. And that really means that even if the ultimate success of your project cannot be guaranteed, as long as the evidence demonstrates, your qualifications and progress, you may still satisfy the prong of well-positioning. And please take note. Unsubstantiated claims, for example, vague statements, maybe something like, I am the best in my field, something like that, and there are no evidence to show that, will not meet the burden of proof. Another important thing, please take a pause again and look at an extract from the policy manual. Read through it. And this is what I want to draw out that you should take note of. For people that have received requests for evidence, some of the things that have been pointed out is you only display letters of recommendation, and those letters are not supported by other kind of objective evidence that can really, show that indeed what you are saying is legit, is true. So what I'm trying to tell you is that don't just include only independent letters, but show other kind of exhibits, objective evidence in your petition. In the past, though, we've heard of cases of petitions, self-petitioners who do not submit any letters from experts, and their petition were approved. But the question you should ask is, what kind of other objective evidence have such people presented in their petition? If you are able to present all other objective evidence backing up your claim, which is really evident, then in that case, one may say the independent or the dependent letter of recommendation may not, be really needed. As even USCIS do say, it has less weight compared to other source of evidence. However, if you have them, please utilize them. The next thing I want to talk about is on the prong 3, which says, on balance, will your proposed endeavor, will who you say you are benefit the US? So the third prong of the dinosaur framework is the final hurdle in establishing your eligibility for an EB2 NIW. Please take note, even if you meet the first two prongs, that is the substantial merit and national importance of your proposed endeavor, and be well positioned to advance the endeavor, if you do not fulfill the prong 3, this prong, your petition will not scale through. So this prong requires the petitioner to demonstrate that waiving the requirement for a job offer and labor certification is in the best interest of the United States. You will recall that EB2 normally can be filed by employers. And in that case, you really need a job offer from them, and it's your employer that will file it on your behalf. However, there is a subcategory, which is now the EB2 NIW. That one is where you can self-petition. So you really need to show that this will really be in the best interest of the United States, that you do not need a job offer. Briefly, let me explain what is the purpose of this job offer and labor certification. The labor certification ordinarily ensures that, when an employer hires foreign national, it won't negatively impact job opportunities, wages, or working conditions of US workers. And the job offer requirement typically ties, you should note that a job offer requirement through this route, ties a petition to a specific employer and role. Ensuring the foreign national skills directly addresses a defined labor need. And here is the good news. The National Interest Waiver, NIW, if you file under that category, removes these requirements. But that is only if you can demonstrate that it's better for the US to allow you to bypass this labor certification process. And that's why the prong 3 is very important for self-petitioners of EB2 NIW. Now, what does officers analyze in this prong 3? The officer carefully balance the evidence provided by the petitioner to determine whether waiving these requirements is really beneficial. And this involves weighing two factors. One, factor supporting the waiver, showing evidence demonstrating how your contributions will significantly benefit the US in ways that extend beyond one specific employer or job. And the second one is factors supporting the requirement of a job offer and labor certification. And in this, the role of these requirements in protecting the US labor market. In summary, what I would say is that for you to succeed in this prong, the evidence you provide in your write-up and objective evidence in favor of granting this waiver must outweigh the justification for enforcing this traditional requirement, which is the labor of certification. Again, you can look at the screen, pause the video, and look at an extract from the latest policy manual. And after that, all I can say is that in addressing this prong 3 effectively, your petition should focus on showing how your endeavor, one, has broader impacts beyond an individual employer. For example, if you are developing a clean energy solution, you really want to show how your work will benefit, the communities, the industries or sectors, rather than just one employer's bottom line. You really want to show the broader implication. Another point is fill a gap not easily met by the US workforce. If you're an expertise in a particular area, let's say quantum computing or advanced robotics, you really want to demonstrate how your unique contributions fulfill a need that cannot easily be addressed by available US workers. Another important point under this that you should write about in your petition is advances US national interest. How will your work support critical national priorities? You really want to include that in your petition. And, the next point is you really want to show that it's not tied to a single employer's immediate needs. Especially, there are those of you filing for NIW and you already have a job offer and you're already working with a US employer. You have to be very, very careful to really show that your contributions are broader and not limited to the short-term objectives of one employer. That is really important. And this aspect has given people also, request for more evidence. So in a nutshell, this prong often, requires strategic documentation and persuasive argumentation. So don't take it lightly and think, well, I've done prong 1 and 2 very well, so I do not really need this prong 3. You have to take it also very serious. It's not enough to state that your work is important. Take notes. You must really show why the traditional labor certification process would limit your own ability to deliver those benefits. Those benefits you've highlighted in your proposed endeavor, broader impacts. And, especially focusing on your work's broader impacts, its alignment with national priorities, and your unique qualifications, you can really build a strong case for this prong. I know it may be a lot. There are previous videos, previous month ago, where I took on each of these prong and I explained in depth, and I also provided, I think, samples of, previous successful petition in those videos. Please go back. You may consider going back to them. Prof. Dan Tutorials on YouTube. There is a playlist on EB2 NIW, and I think there is also a playlist on EB1 or, other kind of latest content. Consider going through them. It may help you. However, my final line of thought is that consult the USCIS policy manual. With that, I am encouraging you, if you have the luxury of time, you can self-petition successfully. We have people that have done that in the past. If you are able to write your petition by yourself, please kindly do so. And I would just advise, maybe in writing it, there might be questions that pop up where you need clarity and the likes. That's where you may consider reaching out, to trusted persons that you feel are knowledgeable and can help you out. Having said that, that will be the end of this video. Wishing you all the best. Thank you for following Prof. Dan Tutorials on YouTube. Please follow us on every other social media handles you can see on the screen, and you can visit our website or send an email. Wishing you all the best to continue contributing to United States national important area, and of course, for you also to get your green card dream and eventually becoming a permanent resident of the United States. How good that is. Take care and bye-bye.